EMV is a payment method based on a technical standard for smart payment cards and for payment terminals and automated teller machines which can accept them. EMV stands for Europay, Mastercard, and Visa, the three companies that created the standard. EMV cards are smart cards, also called chip cards, integrated circuit cards, or IC cards, which store their data on integrated circuit chips, in addition to magnetic stripes for backward compatibility. These include cards that must be physically inserted or dipped into a reader, as well as contactless cards that can be read over a short distance using near-field communication technology. Payment cards which comply with the EMV standard are often called chip and PIN or chip and signature cards, depending on the authentication methods employed by the card issuer, such as a personal identification number, PIN, or electronic signature. Standards exist, based on ISO/IEC 7816, for contact cards, and based on ISO/IEC 14443 for contactless cards, Mastercard contactless, Visa PayWave, American Express Pay. Until the introduction of chip and PIN, all face-to-face credit or debit card transactions involved the use of a magnetic stripe or mechanical imprint to read and record account data, and a signature for purposes of identity verification. The customer hands their card to the cashier at the point of sale, who then passes the card through a magnetic reader or makes an imprint from the raised text of the card. In the former case, the system verifies account details and prints a slip for the customer to sign. In the case of a mechanical imprint, the transaction details are filled in, a list of stolen numbers is consulted, and the customer signs the imprinted slip. In both cases, the cashier must verify that the customer's signature matches that on the back of the card to authenticate the transaction. Using the signature on the card as a verification method has a number of security flaws, the most obvious being the relative ease with which cards may go missing before their legitimate owners can sign them. Another involves the erasure and replacement of legitimate signature, and yet another involves the forgery of the correct signature. The invention of the silicon integrated circuit chip in 1959 led to the idea of incorporating it onto a plastic smart card in the late 1960s by two German engineers, Helmut Grottrop and Jürgen Dittloff. The earliest smart cards were introduced as calling cards in the 1970s, before later being adapted for use as payment cards. Smart cards have since used MOS integrated circuit chips, along with MOS memory technologies such as flash memory and EEPROM, electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. The first standard for smart payment cards was the Carte Bancaire B0M4 from Bull CP8 deployed in France in 1986, followed by the B4B0, compatible with the M4, deployed in 1989. Geldcard in Germany also predates EMV. EMV was designed to allow cards and terminals to be backwardly compatible with these standards. France has since migrated all its card and terminal infrastructure to EMV. EMV stands for Europay, Mastercard, and Visa, the three companies that created the standard. The standard is now managed by EMV Co., a consortium with control split equally among Visa, Mastercard, JCB, American Express, China UnionPay, and Discover. EMV Co. accepts public comment on its draft standards and processes, but also allows other organizations to become associates and subscribers for deeper collaboration. JCB joined the consortium in February 2009, China UnionPay in May 2013 and Discover in September 2013. The top vendors of EMV cards and chips are, ABNote, American Bank Corp., CPI Card Group, IDEMIA, from the merger of Oberthursday Technologies and Safran Identity and Security, Morpho, in 2017, Gemal2, acquired by the Thales Group in 2019, Giesecke and Devriend and Versatile Card Technology. Differences and benefits. There are two major benefits to moving to smart card-based credit card payment systems: improved security, with associated fraud reduction, and the possibility for finer control of offline credit card transaction approvals. One of the original goals of EMV was to provide for multiple applications on a card, for a credit and debit card application or an e-purse. Beginning in 2013, new issue debit cards in the US contain two applications: a card association, Visa, Mastercard etc., application, and a common debit application. EMV chip card transactions improve security against fraud compared to magnetic stripe card transactions that rely on the holder's signature and visual inspection of the card to check for features such as hologram. The use of a PIN and cryptographic algorithms such as TDD, RSA, and SHA provide authentication of the card to the processing terminal and the card issuer's host system. The processing time is comparable to online transactions, in which communications delay accounts for the majority of the time, while cryptographic operations at the terminal take comparatively little time. The supposed increased protection from fraud has allowed banks and credit card issuers to establish a liability shift, such that merchants are liable, as of January 1, 2005 in the EU region and October 1, 2015 in the US, for any fraud that results from transactions on systems that are not EMV capable. The majority of implementations of EMV cards and terminals confirm the identity of the cardholder by requiring the entry of a personal identification number, PIN, rather than signing a paper receipt. Whether or not PIN authentication takes place depends upon the capabilities of the terminal and programming of the card. When credit cards were first introduced, merchants used mechanical rather than magnetic portable card imprinters that required carbon paper to make an imprint. They did not communicate electronically with the card issuer, and the card never left the customer's site. The merchant had to verify transactions over a certain currency limit by telephoning the card issuer. During the 1970s in the United States, many merchants subscribed to a regularly updated list of stolen or otherwise invalid credit card numbers. This list was commonly printed in booklet form on newsprint, in numerical order, much like a slender phone book, yet without any data aside from the list of invalid numbers. Checkout cashiers were expected to thumb through this booklet each and every time a credit card was presented for payment of any amount, prior to approving the transaction, which incurred a short delay. Later, terminal equipment at the merchant electronically contacted the card issuer, using information from the magnetic stripe to verify the card and authorize the transaction. This was much faster, but required the transaction to occur in a fixed location. Consequently, if the transaction did not take place near a terminal, in a restaurant, for example, the clerk or waiter had to take the card away from the customer and to the card machine. It was easily possible for a dishonest employee to swipe the card surreptitiously through a cheap machine that instantly recorded the information on the card and stripe. In fact, even at the terminal, a thief could bend down in front of the customer and swipe the card on a hidden reader. This made illegal cloning of cards relatively easy and a more common occurrence than before. Since the introduction of payment card chip and PIN, cloning of the chip is not feasible. Only the magnetic stripe can be copied, and a copied card cannot be used by itself on a terminal requiring a PIN. The introduction of chip and PIN coincided with wireless data transmission technology becoming inexpensive and widespread. In addition to mobile phone-based magnetic readers, merchant personnel can now bring wireless PIN pads to the customer, so the card is never out of the cardholder's sight. Thus, both chip and PIN and wireless technologies can be used to reduce the risks of unauthorized swiping and card cloning. Chip and PIN vis-a-vis chip and signature. Chip and PIN is one of the two verification methods that EMV-enabled cards can employ. Rather than physically signing a receipt for identification purposes, the user enters a personal identification number, PIN, typically of 4 to 6 digits in length. This number must correspond to the information stored on the chip or PIN at host. Chip and PIN technology makes it much harder for fraudsters to use a found card, inasmuch as if someone steals a card, they are unable to make fraudulent purchases unless they know the PIN. Chip and signature, on the other hand, differentiates itself from chip and PIN by verifying a consumer's identity with a signature. As of 2015, chip and PIN cards are common in most European countries, example the UK, Ireland, France, Portugal, Finland, and the Netherlands, as well as in Pakistan, Iran, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, India, Sri Lanka, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Chip and signature cards are more common in the US, Mexico, parts of South America, such as Argentina and Peru, and some Asian countries, such as Taiwan, Hong Kong, Thailand, South Korea, Singapore, and Indonesia. Online, phone, and mail order transactions. While EMV technology has helped reduce crime at the point of sale, fraudulent transactions have shifted to more vulnerable telephone, internet, and mail order transactions known in the industry as card not present or CNP transactions. CNP transactions made up at least 50% of all credit card fraud. Because of physical distance, it is not possible for the merchant to present a keypad to the customer in these cases, so alternatives have been devised, including software approaches for online transactions that involve interaction with the card-issuing bank or network's website, such as verified by Visa and Mastercard Secure Code, implementations of Visa's 3D Secure protocol. 3D Secure is now being replaced by strong customer authentication as defined in the European Second Payment Services Directive. Creating a one-time virtual card linked to a physical card with a given maximum amount. Additional hardware with keypad and screen that can produce a one-time password, such as the chip authentication program. Keypad and screen integrated into complex cards to produce a one-time password. Since 2008, Visa has been running pilot projects using the EMV card where the generated number replaces the code printed on the back of standard cards. As for which is faster, the New York Times explained that it's a matter of perception, while the chip method requires that the chip stay in the machine until the transaction and the authorization process is completed. The phone swipe method does the authorization in the background, a receipt starts coming out right away. EMV chip started as a jointly developed global standard to allow cards with computer chips and terminals used by the largest financial services companies to interact. Today, EMV is a global technology that processes secure payment across face-to-face and remote environments. EMV stands for Europay, Mastercard and Visa. The standard is now managed by EMV Co., a global technical body that facilitates worldwide interoperability and acceptance of secure payment transactions by managing and evolving the EMV specifications and related testing processes. Point 1. Key takeaways. EMV is a technology toolbox that enables globally interoperable secure payment across face-to-face and remote environments. EMV chip specifications describe the requirements for global interoperability between chip-based payment applications and acceptance terminals to enable secure contactless and mobile transactions, and other emerging payment technologies, such as QR code-based payments. EMV was developed in the 1990s in Europe because card authorization was prohibitively expensive for European card issuers. While EMV chip has reduced fraud related to some credit card activity, it is limited in protecting card-not-present transactions. Understanding EMVs. Point of sale, POS, terminals that meet EMV standards typically require the cardholder to use a personal identification number, PIN, instead of a signature, which adds an additional layer of security. EMV cards also contain a circuit chip, which encodes every transaction differently. If a criminal intercepts data from a chip card's transaction, the data cannot be reused to make another purchase. Historically, credit and debit cards only used a magnetic strip to manage cardholder data. The cardholder would then sign a receipt at purchase. This system did not provide a high level of security, as a signature can be forged, and the magnetic strip has proved relatively easy to hack, revealing the cardholder's private information to criminals. In the 1990s, companies began developing chip-based solutions to address the problem of credit card and payment fraud among cardholders. However, the wide variety of technologies used created interoperability problems that were challenging for both consumers and businesses. The result was that less effective magnetic strip technology remained widespread despite the availability of more secure chips. Point 2. EMVCO's formation in 1999 provided a set of uniform standards and specifications for using chips in cards and payments, finally allowing this more secure measure to take hold. Designed to reduce fraud in retail settings, the EMV chip and its new set of standards made it nearly impossible to counterfeit a card or fake a transaction. Point 2. U.S. card issuers did not migrate to EMV specifications until much later, with issuers setting an initial October 2015 deadline for merchants to shift to the new technology. The prevalence of high-profile data breaches and rising identity theft ultimately motivated U.S. issuers to make the shift to EMV. EMV Co. currently has 6 members: Visa, Mastercard, Discover, American Express, China UnionPay, JCB. Limitations of EMV. When initially introduced, EMV-equipped chip cards created some confusion and delays for consumers and merchants due to longer transaction times compared to swipe cards and the need to enter a PIN in some marketplaces instead of a signature. However, consumers and merchants soon adapted to chip cards, and since their introduction, card usage has significantly increased worldwide. There are now nearly 13 billion EMV chip payment cards worldwide, and 94.76% of all card-present transactions conducted globally use EMV chip technology. Point 45. While the EMV chip specifications reduce the chance of fraud and nullify counterfeit cards for card-present transactions at point-of-sale terminals, they are limited in protecting online transactions. The accelerating growth of e-commerce and online purchases makes this a significant vulnerability that security experts expect will be the focus of credit card fraud going forward. To meet this growing challenge, the EMV registered specifications have now evolved beyond the EMV chip. EMV specifications for card-not-present payments include EMV 3D Secure, EMV 3DS, EMV Secure Remote Commerce, EMV SRC, and EMV Payment Tokenization. 678. Additionally, EMV technology is only as good as the merchant payment processing systems it is used on. Merchants lacking encryption or weak encryption on their POS terminals are leaving payment data vulnerable. EMV is a registered trademark in the US and other countries and an unregistered trademark elsewhere. The EMV trademark is owned by EMV Co., LLC. Fast fact: EMV card users are increasingly using near-field communication, NFC, technology for contactless payments. Consumers can wave the card over the reader terminal instead of inserting the chip card into a reader. This makes for an even more secure transaction. What does EMV stand for? EMV stands for Europay, Mastercard and Visa, some of the largest payment processors in the world. How do I know if my credit card has an EMV chip? If your card has an EMV chip, you'll see a small chip the size of a fingernail on the front of your card. If yours has fallen off, contact your card issuer to ask for a replacement card so you can use this feature. What information is stored on an EMV chip? The chip stores a cardholder's account name, account number, and expiration date. It's the same information that's found in the magnetic stripe of the card. Credit card security has come a long way since the magnetic stripe you used to swipe. To strengthen transaction security around the world, EMVCo's chip cards allow global systems to work together while safeguarding sensitive consumer information. Thank you for watching this video.